Right, I think we are ready to get going. Good morning, good afternoon, and indeed for some, good evening. Thank you all for taking the time to join us today on our webinar. We have so many amazing participants. I'm just going through some of the names here. Hello from Indonesia, hello from Doha, from Oman, from India, the Philippines. Thank you all for taking the time. Really appreciate it. There's so many people. That's absolutely wonderful. Just to give you a bit of background as to who we are and what we're planning on doing with today. Today's webinar is very much about helping your students to improve their writing skills with the product Write and Improve. And my name is Yamuna Vinga, and I'm a senior marketing manager that's based here in our office in Cambridge in the United Kingdom. And with me today is my wonderful colleague, Alberto. Alberto, over to you.
Um, Thank you, Yamuna. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today in this webinar. And please, when you type your name, can you say hi and where you come from? I have seen, like Yamuna has read here, many different countries and places and cities. It's really nice to see everyone joining in and participating, and we are more than looking forward to sharing a number of good resources with you this morning. So say hello, say where you are from. I work for Cambridge Assessment English in Brazil as a senior assessment manager for the Americas, and I'm based in São Paulo, the biggest city in Brazil. And it's a real pleasure to be talking to teachers, colleagues from so many beautiful places around the world. So, this webinar, today we're going to talk about help your students improve their writing skills with Write and Improve. Write and Improve is a platform that was put together with the Cambridge Assessment English team. And the purpose of Writing and Improve is to help students develop their writing skills with the support of a teacher, or it can also be used for self-study. Today, we are going to talk about Write and Improve and its relation to assessment, where we place Write and Improve when we talk about assessment. We are going to talk about a number of self-study and free activities for learners. We are going to give you a quick tour of the test zone area, which has tasks, writing tasks for exam practice. And we're going to go on a quick tour of the class view area, which is an area for teachers to help learners develop writing skills, and then teachers can also monitor learners' progress and add to the feedback that is given by the platform, right? So if you have any questions, please feel free to write your questions here in the chat box. So Write and Improve is an online platform which provides feedback on learners' writing, and it uses artificial intelligence to do so. You can use Write and Improve to get feedback on writing in seconds. Your students can use Write and Improve to practice their writing, and you, the teachers, you can use Class View to set tasks for your students to receive their work already marked, so it saves time as well. And you can also add your feedback and grade along with the feedback and grade that the platform gives, okay? So in order for you to use Write and Improve, it's fast, it's free, especially for learners. And what you need to do is click on the Start Practicing Now button. But before we start talking about the platform, we're going to do a quick review of Write and Improve and how it's related to assessment. In very general terms, when we're talking about assessment, we have assessment for two different purposes. we have formative assessment and summative assessment. So, a few weeks ago, Pablo, my colleague from Argentina, and I talked about assessing writing online. And we went through the purposes for assessing, and we talked about formative assessment and summative assessment. And the main difference between those two purposes for assessment is formative assessment is assessment for learning, which means you provide feedback on students' work, hoping that the student will take feedback on board and improve whatever task you said you set. In our case, we are talking about writing tasks. Summative assessment, on the other hand, is assessment of learning. It's either the final assessment that you set learners at the end of a term, or it's also the kind of assessment when learners register to sit an international language exam like the Cambridge exams. So the purpose is to assess their learning in terms of what they have learned, what skills they have developed, and whether they can prove those skills by sitting that assessment, right? So they are interconnected. It's not the case that one is better than the other, but they are related and one can support the other. So before students come to the summative assessment moment when they have to sit a formal exam at the end of a term or sit an international exam, uh, if they go through the process of preparing for the exam, formative assessment has a very important role because the teacher can set exam tasks and then can give feedback, and the students can also take feedback on board and improve their tasks and submit a new version so they can write a draft and redraft. And I've seen some of the questions here in the chat. A lot of people asking whether the platform's free. Yes, it's mostly free and it's free for learners. Okay. We are going to talk about each of the different areas very soon. And this formative assessment is the area where we position the Write and Improve platform. It's a very, very useful tool. It's actually one of my favorite tools to help learners develop English, to help learners develop their writing skills. And because it has a formative purpose, it allows students to submit draft and then get the feedback from the platform and then redraft and then submit another version and improve their writing at different levels. So this is a task that comes from one of our exams. I mean, it was designed with a summative purpose in mind. So the exam item here expects learners to prove certain writing skills, right? That they can, for example, write creatively, they can write a short text, and in this task, they are also expected to organize a sequence of events into a short paragraph. So when the students are taking doing this task at the moment of the exam, it has a summative purpose to check whether or not students can prove that they have developed those skills, right? And those tasks are assessed through criteria. And when we're talking about the Cambridge criteria for assessing writing tasks, we have 4 key points. For example, content, communicative achievement, organization, and language. So, in a nutshell, content has to do with how well the candidate has completed the task. Communicative achievement has to do with how appropriate the writing is for the task. Organization relates to how the candidate puts together the piece of writing, and language focuses on accuracy of vocabulary and grammar, right? bringing those points in the criteria here because the platform gives feedback on learners' writing and it takes those points into consideration too. So, if you want to help your students to develop those skills, you need to practice those skills in your lessons. And the task now has a formative purpose, right? Because it's not the moment when the students are sitting the exam, but you are helping them to develop the skills for this task in case they are sitting the exam or it's the end of term assessment. Okay? So if you want to help your students to develop this skill of writing a good story, you can, for example, follow a series of steps, which is known as process writing. Process writing is an approach to teaching writing that allows the teacher and the students to go through the process of producing a text together. And process writing has a series of stages. For example, you have the pre-writing phase where the teacher can ask the students to brainstorm ideas about a topic. They can start planning by organizing their ideas and selecting ideas. And then we have another phase, the writing and revising phase, where the teacher can start giving feedback on how the learners are planning to write the first draft. Then they can exchange drafts so they can write collaboratively by using some kind of online platform. Write and Improve is one of them. Then they reorganize ideas at this point by adding, changing, removing parts of the text, and then they can change words and expressions until they come to a point where they're going to edit their work. That is, proofreading, checking punctuation and spelling, checking grammatical inaccuracies, etc., with the support of the teacher and their peers. And finally, they publish the version. Publish in inverted commas means they are going to either submit it to the teacher or they are going to post this in some kind of platform as part of a project that the teacher is working with the learners. So something that the teacher is developing, like maybe a school magazine or something, and that the kind of genre, the types of tasks could vary, right? And when we look at the process writing stages, those two stages here, together with publishing the final version, is those are the stages where write and improve can actually play a very, very important role. Because through write and improve, this stage of writing and revising can be done on the platform electronically. And if the teacher is using the class view feature, the teacher can monitor students' work as well remotely. Especially now that many of us teachers are teaching remotely, ClassView has a very, very good fit because students will be working from home. You will be monitoring what they are doing through the platform, and you can give feedback. And then by the time they get to the point of publishing their version or submitting the final version, they will have gone through a number of stages. They will have practiced, read and reread their drafts. Maybe they will have done it together with peers. So it allows the learners to practice language in different ways and consider a range of writing tasks and come up with a solid piece of writing with so much feedback throughout the process, right? And while they are there in those stages of process writing, we can use the points in the criteria that I mentioned earlier, and we can turn the definitions of those points into questions so that learners can reflect on what they are writing and whether or not they might need to make adjustments. So, for example, in terms of content, uh, you can ask learners or you can assess their writing by asking yourselves, have they done what they were asked to do? Communicative achievement. Is it formal, informal? Is it neutral? Is it appropriate to the kind of task that they had to do? Organization. Is the writing in a logical order? In terms of language, is there a range of structure and lexis, and is the language accurate? So, by using those questions, this can help you assess students' writing without focusing only on the language, like looking at the piece of writing and going straight to the inaccuracies. But you can also those points can also help you look at other areas apart from just the language used in the writing task, right? And then we are going to talk about the platform now. At the beginning, I mentioned that it has three main areas, and we're going to start with the area that is free for learners, and it can be used for self-study. So learners can go to the platform and they can have a go with the tasks on their own, right? So go to the platform, writeandimprove.com, very easy to find. And then you click on Start Practicing Now. And the platform has, as I said, three main areas with many, many tasks. So the area that is free for learners has tasks at different levels. So you have a range of tasks at beginner level, intermediate level, advanced level. You also have a new area there which has tasks for students who are in the workplace. So it has to do with business English, the kind of tasks you would use, emails, etc., in the workplace. And you also have a just for fun area, which has a range of writing tasks which are not connected with any kind of exam format, for example. And what you need to do is choose a level. For each level, you have a number of tasks. So if you add them up, you have over 200 free tasks to practice your writing. It's quite a lot, isn't it? And what does the platform do for you as a learner? Well, you choose a task, you write an answer, you submit it, and then you get feedback in seconds. Feedback from the platform is immediate. And here is a sample of the feedback that the platform provides for learners. We are going to split this image in two parts so that you can visualize the feedback more clearly. First, when you submit a writing task, the immediate feedback that you get involves a summative grade. So, for example, you get a CFR grade, whether you are B1, B2, etc. You also get formative motivational feedback. So the platform gives you a comment, a general comment on your writing. And you also get a prompt relevance mark, which has to do with how the language relates to the task that was set or the task that you chose. So you get a grade in the CFR level, formative motivational feedback, and you also get a prompt relevance mark out of 5, right? Also, when you look at the detailed feedback that you get, uh, the platform will look at the student's text and will highlight points. For example, it's going to give word level or indirect semi-corrective feedback. So by clicking in the exclamation mark, you will get a quick comment on your writing, something that you need to adjust, you need to work on, the platform also highlights parts of the text to draw your attention to something that needs to be maybe rewritten. Might need to change the order of something. So it's the sentence level feedback. It will not correct the parts of the text for you, but it will highlight areas for you to look, analyze, and then you can edit and submit a new version, right? Also, the platform will give you visual feedback by showing your progress through a graph. So the more you submit versions, you can visualize your progress through this graph here. So it gives you detailed feedback and in different ways. Visual feedback, highlighting parts of the text, those short comments, summative assessment, and formative motivational assessment, and a grade on prompt relevance, right? So let's go to the platform, writeandimprove.com, click on Start Practicing Now, and this is the interface of the platform. You have the levels on the left, and then right below you see the examples of the tasks. What you need to do is scroll up and down to choose the level, and for each level you have a number of tasks to choose from. And for you to register, you can click here to create a profile. Or if you already have a profile, you can click here to sign in, and then you use your sign in details, right? And when you click on create a profile, you need to complete this very, very brief form, and you have the option to click on I am a learner or I am a teacher boxes, right? So this is not compulsory, but it's good for us to know how many of the users of the platforms are learners and how many are teachers, right? And then when you get to the platform, you also have areas where you can see your workbooks in case you have a profile and you have started practicing your writing. You have your workbooks there for you to go to, or you can create a workbook where you are going to see what you have done. You can refer back to your drafts, and then you can add more tasks to your workbook, etc., all through self-study. So you chose a task, which is here, write paragraphs to answer the questions about exercise. You have submitted a version. You can type on the platform, or you can type on a word processor, then copy and paste onto the platform. So you have submitted your first draft, and on the right, highlighted here, you can see the feedback from the platform. You can see boxes with a comment. You can see highlighted parts of your text. And if you are not happy with the feedback, you go back to the box on the left, and then you can edit your work, right? Then you submit it again. You get more feedback on your work. As you scroll down, you'll be able to see different tabs. We saw the feedback tab, but if you have submitted a second, third version of a task, you also have access to the changes tab, which keeps a track of the points you have adjusted from the first to the second draft, the second to the third, and you can also see the graph with your progress, right? So it gives you a lot of information about your writing. Now we're going to look at the test zone area. So before I start, can I ask you a question, and then you can start typing your answers here in the chat box. How many of you are preparing students for exams, and which exams are you preparing your students for? Can you type the exam you are preparing your students for? Maybe you are preparing students for IELTS, maybe for one of the Cambridge exams. Can you type the exams you are preparing your students for at the moment, or something an exam you have prepared your students for? So I can see here a number of exams, uh, Cambridge Back, First, IELTS, uh, Proficiency. Okay. From what I can see here, I can see also the Michigan exams, right? From what I can see, IELTS and B2 First seem to be very, very popular here among the teachers. Okay. The reason why I'm asking about the exams you prepare your students for, it's because Write and Improve has a test zone area which focuses on exam practice, but this area is not free. Okay, it's not totally free, and this is what we're going to see. So, the test zone area focuses on helping the learners to develop their skills for two popular exams. One is B2 First, the other one is IELTS, and then you have tasks for IELTS Academic and IELTS General Training. So, in order for you to access the test zone area, same path, writeandimprove.com, click on Start Practicing Now, and then on the left here, you can see the test zone area, so you can choose the exam and the tasks you want to practice, right? And the test zone area will give you a number of tasks for those two very, very popular exams, IELTS and B2 First. And for each of those exams here, the first task is free for you to do, for you to get to know the platform. So they are free samples, right? Actually, at the moment, B2 First has more than one free sample, so you can have a go. And you see, you have quite a number of tasks. For example, 52 tasks for IELTS academics, you have 40 tasks for IELTS general training, and 60 tasks for B2 First. Okay, so if you want to do more of the free samples, more beyond the free samples, so you need to subscribe to the platform. Okay, and by subscribing, you will find out all the information about fees and everything. So test zone. This was the test zone area. We are now going to talk about the class view area, which is the area for teachers, where teachers can monitor students' progress by creating groups in the platform, which we call workbooks. Okay. So creating class view is again very simple. You follow the same pathway, so you can go to writeandimprove.com, click here, and on the left you have the interface of the platform, and then here on the menu on the left you can see the class view icon. So you click there and you can subscribe to it. Again, we ask you to click on the box here because it's good for us to know how many of the users are teachers and learners, etc. Right? So here is the class view interface. You can click on the free trial for class view, and it's free for 2 months at the moment. And so you can have a go. But we are going to quickly go on tour of this area of the platform, which is great. It gives teachers feedback in many different ways, right? So one of the things you do when you subscribe to ClassView is you can create a group by clicking on create a workbook, and then you need to add your learners to the group, and then you need to add tasks so that your learners can develop and practice their writing skills. So there are two things that you can do. You can create your own task, so you have the option apart from the almost 400 tasks that we have. You can create a new task of your own, or you can go to the menu here on the left, and then you can choose a tasks from the workbooks, right? Either the different levels or even the test zone tasks as well. If you want to know more about how to set up your group, how to add tasks to the platform, we have a YouTube tutorial whose link and QR code I'm going to show you in a moment. So by going through the steps in the tutorial, you'll be able to set up your groups, okay? Then the tutorial will tell you how you can communicate with your students by sending them a code so they can join the workbook, etc., and become part of your group. So everything will be explained in the tutorial. When you have a group of students in ClassView and they are already submitting tasks, this area of the platform gives you different ways to filter information in terms of students' progress. So, for example, you can see here some filters like workbooks, tasks, students, checks. By checks, we mean the number of versions or drafts they have submitted, okay? So here you can view your workbooks in case, or your groups in case you have more than one group. So you can see, you can filter your groups here. Here you can view the tasks your learners have completed per group or as a whole. Here you can view all your individual students' work. So for a specific student, you can click here and select. Here you can view how many times a task was attempted by the learners in the different groups. Yeah. So you can filter, and the platform will also give you feedback through graphs. So in order for you to keep track of your learners' progress, you can see here the first graph, which we call score range. So this graph with horizontal bars will show you your students' progress from in terms of CFR levels, Common European Framework levels, and how they are progressing. If a learner has more than one blue line, it means they have submitted two different tasks, right? You can also view learners' progress like this in terms of how they are progressing in levels, but also in terms of how many tasks they have submitted. You can view a whole group like this, or you can click on student's name to view individual students in the graph. And also we have a student progress heat map, which is available for specific tasks. So you have to choose a specific task that you set, and then it's going to give you this heat map, which shows from very light blue to very dark blue how students are progressing. So a light blue circle shows that the learner is at a low level or at a low score. A darker blue circle shows that they are at a higher level or at a higher score. So you can view students' progress in different ways. It's really visual, easy to access. You can also use these to give feedback to the learners. I think it helps the learner to understand their progress more, right? So if you have a group of students already on the platform in class view, this is what you can see. You have your group of students on the left, and then you have a specific student's work that was assessed by the platform. So you can view the comments, you can view the highlighted bits of the text that the learner needs to work on. And then as you scroll down, you'll be able to view more of the feedback. That would depend on the length of the writing task. But you can also, along with the feedback from the platform, you can also add your feedback to your learner here. So you can personalize feedback, and you can also add a grade of your own. So to add up to the feedback from the platform, right? So here is the link or the QR code for you to access the tutorial, which will help you to set up your classes. It will help you to set up the tasks that you add to your groups, and then you can monitor the groups by watching the tutorial. Yeah. So we saw class view from the teacher's perspective. Now we are going to look at the learner experience when they are using the class view because they have been given a code by their teacher, they have joined the workbook. What is it that the learners see? Well, they go to the platform, and then what they need to do is they can join a workbook, or if they already have a code from the teacher, this is where they insert their code in order to join a specific group that the teacher created. If they are already in a group and the teacher has given feedback on their work, they will see a little blue circle next to the area My Writing. Yeah, so it's a notification that the teacher has uh, sent them something about their tasks. So what learners see is on the left the answer that they typed, on the right the feedback from the platform, and then if they want to make changes, they go to their writing on the left, and then they can edit their work and then submit it again. They are going to see feedback from the platform, and they are going to see the teacher's feedback and grade here in this box at the bottom if the teacher has added feedback and another grade, right? Apart from the feedback they get from the platform, right? So also, if they have submitted more than one version, the learners also have access to the tab where they can see the changes they have made from the previous draft to the current draft, and they can see their progress in the graph as well, right? So there's lots of feedback. And when the learners are participating in a group that was set by a teacher, they can get all this feedback that we talked about at the beginning, plus the feedback from the teacher that is personalized, and the teacher can add more to the feedback from the platform. So if the teachers are using ClassView, they have access to all the tasks from the free area. Plus, they have access, they can use the tasks from the test zone area, which means the teacher has almost 400 tasks to use with their learners. So it's quite a lot, a number of resources, time saving because the platform will be giving feedback. So it speeds things up for teachers, it's very useful for learners. And in remote teaching, it's a very, very useful tool because teachers and students will be in contact. It's all in one place because we know that there are many online tools for collaborative writing, for example, but sometimes things are in different places. So you use one tool for this purpose, and then you use another tool for that purpose. ClassView puts everything together in one place. It's organized, institutional, so it has great fit for remote teaching, right? So some points to bear in mind uh, for the platform. What is Write and Improve? Write and Improve is an online writing practice tool. It's a supportive environment for self-study writing that offers a library of tasks, automatic feedback, and indicative scores. So those scores, they are an indication, right? And it's also a tool for setting and sharing writing tasks for students for homework or in the classroom. But it's very important to bear in mind, Write and Improve is not a spelling and grammar correction tool because it will not correct the writing for the learner. It's going to indicate areas to work on, right? Which makes it a very, very useful tool for formative assessment. And we need to manage expectations about the platform as well. So the feedback that you get from the platform will not catch every possible error, right? Because it only gives error feedback when it is 90% certain. This is why in class view, the personalized feedback from the teacher can also be important in this process. The platform is not meant to be replacing the teacher. This is not the purpose, right? It's a platform that teachers can use to help with teaching and practicing writing. It offers a lot of guidance for learners and indicative grades only. It doesn't mean that because they got a B2 in one of the tasks that they are ready to sit a B2 exam and they will be fully successful. That's not the point. It's guidance for learners and indicative grades to help learners improve, right? And as I mentioned before, the platform will not fix the text for the learners. It's only going to uh, point learners in the direction of areas they need to work on, right? As a summary of what we discussed, we have three main areas in Write and Improve. We have the free areas with over 200 tasks. We have Test Zone with plenty of tasks for IELTS Academic, IELTS General Training, and B2 First. And we have the class view area, which is this learning management system that helps teachers keep track of learners' progress. And the teachers can make use of 300 and something different tasks with their learners at different levels. So it offers learners a lot, right? Okay, now is the time for questions. I can see that there were so many questions. Flipping through
Yeah.
the chat box. Uh,
Yeah, we had a lot of questions, so we had a lot of interesting feedback. So first of all, for those of you that were having any issues, whether it was audio or video, as we said at the beginning of this call, this is a live stream, so depending on your bandwidth, we apologize. If you were having any issues listening or watching Alberto. We also had some questions around certificates, and as you might be able to see the little message that's at the top of the chat box. The handout is also available to download, and the document is also going to be able to be sent to you via email. And the certificate itself will be available for download. Some of you asked, are we going to post it in the mail? No, we're not going to post it in the mail. It is available for you to actually download from the platform itself. With regards to some of the questions, we had a question around whether or not this was free for teachers. I think, Alberto, you mentioned that it was free for learners. There was a
mhm.
question around that. Did you want to address that?
Yes, well, it is free for learners, and the class view area is not free. However, at this moment, the teachers can use the free trial for a period of 2 months.
Perfect. There was
Mhm.
also a few comments with regards to having access to this webinar so that they can re-listen and watch it again, perhaps at a later time. And the answer to that is absolutely. We are actually recording this webinar and it will be made available to those of you that are here with us today. And for those that couldn't attend, we'll send out an email with a link to be able to watch it. We had some wonderful feedback from Juliana, who said she's been using Write and Improve since lockdown and she's found it
Mhm.
very helpful. So good for you, Juliana. Olga had the question around the recording. There were several questions around pricing. Do we have any suggestions, Alberto, as to where they could send their questions on pricing for the product for Write and Improve?
Yes, well, what you can do is if you are interested in finding out about the prices, when you click on subscribe in the class view area, um, and when you click the free trial, the platform will tell you how much the fees cost for numbers of learners. So if you have a minimum of 10 learners, you will see the fees on the platform, and the fees become lower as you add more students to the platform. So just go to the platform and the fees will be there. Same for the test zone area. When you subscribe to the area, you will be able to find out about the prices.
Perfect. And then we had feedback from Khadija, which I thought was interesting when you asked the question, what are the different tests and exams that they're actually trying to prepare their students for? Khadija also talked about the fact that it was for progression, which I thought was very interesting, and not
Mhm.
simply for a specific exam like BEC or Reach Proficiency. So that was great feedback. We had a question from Tirthendu, who was asking about how does this compare to Grammarly? Grammarly.com, which checks grammar and punctuation. Is that
Mhm.
something you want to talk about, Alberto?
Yes, I can briefly talk about it. Grammarly gives focused feedback on areas of accuracy, which has a very important role. But when we're talking about writing, I think we need to consider areas of language, accuracy of vocabulary and grammar. But it's also important to look at other areas which are part of writing skills as well. For example, the content, the communicative achievement, also the organization of a text. So we look at language, but we also look at other areas that learners need to be given feedback on because writing has those other features which are important. If you think about writing a short story or a short email, you don't do that with a number of perfectly correct lines, sentences. You need to put the sentences together. You need to know how a paragraph is organized. So there are those other areas that we can look at as well as part of our feedback and assessment of learners' writing.
Perfect. And Sarah had a very interesting question as to whether or not Write and Improve would be something suitable for young learners or pre A1 starters. You could give us some guidance on that.
Yeah, well, if you go to the just for fun area, some tasks are at a low level, but not pre A1. I think they need a bit more, practice with writing before they start practicing with Write and Improve. At least a good A1 level.
Absolutely. There was a question from Gabriella, which I believe, Alberto, you actually addressed when you looked at it from the learner's perspective, which was about how does a student actually submit the work. And I think you actually showed us step by step how that works and that they can then see the feedback from their teacher. But again, if you miss that, once you get a link to watch the recording again, you'll be able to follow Alberto more closely on that.
Can I
Just looking at
just
some of the other
add to
questions.
this? Can I just add to
Yeah,
this,
of course,
Yamuna?
please.
When the learner chooses a task, right? The the next thing they see on the website is the task, and below the task there is a box where they're going to write their text. So they write their text in that box below the task and submit it. On the right, they will see the feedback, but it's right there in the platform. Or some people like writing word processors. They might wish to type their answer separately and then copy and paste onto the box on the platform.
Brilliant. And then Leela had a question around, well, she's written summative assessment is post-teaching, question mark.
Hmm.
Is that
Yes,
accurate? Yeah. Okay,
yes.
perfect.
Summative assessment is post teaching. So once you have covered a number of teaching hours and a curriculum, then you can set the assessment to check whether or not the learners achieved what were, no, in terms of the content of a program, right? And that will be an indication of how successful the program has been. If you want to draw upon this information, that would need to be for the next program or the next semester. Formative assessment is during the program, pre pre-exam and while teaching.
Hmm. Perfect. There were a few questions around this same topic, really, and one of them was from Ningram, which was about how can, as a teacher, how can we support students who have a limited vocabulary?
Hmm. That's a very good point. One of the things that we need to consider before writing, and I don't have an illustration in this webinar, but if they can go to the playlist of webinars on YouTube and look at the webinar on assessing writing online, we talked about the descriptor from the Common European Framework for the different levels. But in order for the learners to be able to meet the expectations from that descriptor, we need to consider the components. What are those components? The specific knowledge that they need to have about vocabulary, grammar, putting ideas together, how to how to write short sentences with the words in the right place, like the auxiliary verb, the pronouns, etc. So if they have limited vocabulary, what you need to do is think about tasks that are suitable for the language they have and work on their language so that you can set more challenging tasks, right? So it's add to the vocabulary, try to find ways to expand this vocabulary in the teaching. And one thing about the English language is that one word usually has many meanings. So if they know two or three different meanings for one word, they know they are expanding their vocabulary as well in that sense. So find ways to expand this language so that you can set more challenging tasks.
Absolutely. Just some lovely feedback from Prasanna here. Writing Improve is a wonderful tool to both learners and teachers. I've been using it right from the beta version. So thank you very much for that feedback, Prasanna. I think we've addressed pretty much all the questions. There are so many coming in. So I think probably what is the best approach, Alberta, is to sort of look at all these questions offline and
Mhm.
provide a sort of FAQ list along with a link to the actual recording itself, just because
Yeah,
we can't, we have limited time as it is.
sure,
Um,
sure.
Perfect. So
Can I
with
just
that,
say
yeah, go ahead.
something? This QR code here is for the tutorial to help teachers to set up the classes in the class view. But I would love, before we finish, I would like to remind teachers of the support that we have available, right? So, in terms of supporting every teacher, we have upcoming webinars. So by clicking on this link, you will be able to see the upcoming webinars and organize yourselves to attend the webinars like you are doing now. And thank you very much for attending this webinar. You will be getting the PDF of the slides when the recording goes to our playlist on YouTube. We also have websites that can help teachers. We have the Supporting Every Teacher website, which has links to a number of resources, and that includes Write and Improve. We have the Facebook profile, Cambridge English Teaching, which has a number of ideas and links. We also have our free interactive support pack. You can find the link to those resources on the handout that was sent to you. And once again, I would like to thank you very much for your active participation, asking questions, being here all the time. And thank you, Yamuna, for all the support you have been giving.
My pleasure. Thank you all for joining us. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Take